I've got the steering wheel off. Well, here's what happened. Let's see if we can, this is the U-joint beneath the tilt assembly. And this pin came out and got caught up in the mechanism. I'm going to slip it back in there because I found that this morning on the floor. So I'm going to save this U-joint. But you can kind of see there it doesn't want to rock that way very far. This way is okay now, but this way it's in a bind. And you can see all the rust that's really formed up around there. This goes in there like that. But this tilt mechanism comes up here. Well, the reason I had to take it off like that, it has these little pins here. Let me just set that up here. Is, here it rocks. Well, I couldn't get the steering wheel off of this tapered shaft here. And so I had to pull up the plastic and take the two little screws out, pop these pins off. This is really hard to do. Pop these, they're pivot pins. And then they had this spring in the way right here that's held in by a bolt to get this tilt stud out of the way. It's in there like that. You had to remove it in order to pull this assembly up with the shaft attached to it. That's the only way I could get to the U-joint. But it worked. Here we have the new U-joint. I just got that in this morning from the local Massey Ferguson dealer. And I noticed it's really packed. 3 pieces of plastic. But look how greasy it is. I'm guessing the original one got a little rusty, and that's what broke that pin. So it's all pretty greasy. There is no rollers in this U-joint assembly. It's only just a pin through that cross piece. Then it has a roll pin through the shaft and a snap ring that goes around that roll pin to hold it in place. I couldn't get that little pin out, so I went and got a punch. Let's just see if I can drive it out. Might be pretty tight here. So it's a little bit rusty. Okay, it's starting to come out. That's ridiculous. This is a 2020 model. Only has a little over 200 hours on it. I'm going to save that pin. Okay. Now, that U-joint's even tight on the shaft. That thing's not wanting to come. I'm going to spray it down and we'll see what I can do. Well, I tried to get the U-joint off the shaft with a small punch, and that did not work. So what I brought along was my favorite punch. If you guys are tractor mechanics, you might recognize this. It's a shift shaft, like an 856 or a 1086, one of them style tractors. Makes a perfect punch. I used to be a mechanic at International Harvester dealer in the late 70s, early 80s, and I overhauled a bunch of trannies and rear ends, and we'd always replace these because the groove here, I believe, where a snap ring would go, would get dislodged, and so you replace this. and they make perfect punches, just the right hardness. But I don't know if this is going to go. Try to line it up here and hit it. Should be wearing safety glasses, shouldn't I? And get a different grip here. I may have to take some emery cloth to that if that new one doesn't slip right on there. Okay. Let me clean that up just a little bit. Yeah, see it fit right on there. I just need a, they supply you with new pins, new clamps. See if I can just tap that. There that went. Okay, so there's the new U-joint on the shaft, and I'll have to put it onto this tilt mechanism. I'm going to get my snap rings situated on the U-joint first though. And you might notice here, using snap ring pliers here, it's got to go in the groove in that U-joint. That's what makes getting a universal U-joint might be a little bit hard, but it goes into a groove there. Well, I'll have to probably tap it with a hammer. There. Now it pins seated, and that snap ring almost comes together there. So I know it's going to hold that pin from coming out. Here you can see the marks I made with the hammer trying to get that old U-joint off. Now I just have to slip that new snap ring on. I told my wife I didn't want to videotape me taking this thing apart. I'd look pretty stupid. It's easier. For me, it's always easier going back together than taking something apart. I was always that way. I was slow taking it apart, faster putting it together. I know other guys, other mechanics are just the opposite. Now, got my pin in there. Matter of getting the rope or the snap ring over the rope pin. Okay, pretty sure that's seated. Now you can see that that U-joint is put together. It's pretty dark in here. So now I'm ready to slip this together. What I'm going to do, on the bottom side here, it goes into the, I call it the pump assembly or the gear pump, the power steering assembly. It's a little bit rusted there. I probably ought to clean that up, but I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on here because that's got to telescope in and out slightly when you tilt the wheel. It's going to pull up and down on this shaft. Got a little bit of black moly here. It's like a Ford. I'm a Ford man. So that's what they use on the wheel bearings, be a moly grease. Okay. Then we can go back and slip this assembly down below here. I'm going to try to show how this, let me throw some light on it here. It's my flashlight. Let's see how that shaft, And a little plastic keeper. There, see how that slides in there? There's a seal there at the top. And I didn't even at first take this shield off around here. Just held in with a little, kind of a triangle screw assembly here. My wife was out here when I was taking this thing apart. She says, "Oh, don't you want to take that off first?" Well, I did, and she was so proud of herself. Because then you could see this shaft here, how it goes into the pump assembly. And here's the upper tilt mechanism. And this crazy bolt has to slip through there. See if we can do this here. Yeah, that flat, you can see that right up here. There's on that other housing, there's a flat piece. See that? It has to go like that. You can see that these two washers, how I slipped them over that bolt there. Then we can put the roll or the tilt pins in here. Let me do that. I'll stop the camera here, slip them in there, show you how they go. Okay, I got the little tilt pin in here, and it's held with a little bolt here. It takes a 10mm wrench. I had to take this all apart with the plastic shields lifted up in the front here. Just 2 screws that hold that plastic. Then you can slip it up, but you have to get them in here and take them screws loose. That's if you can't get the steering wheel off. That's what made it difficult. And finish tightening up these bolts that hold that pivot pin in. Now you can see how that's working a lot better. Okay, I was going to show you how that shaft moves in and out as you tilt that wheel. It's just a fraction of an inch. I don't know if you can see that. Now the trick is this crazy spring. I'm going to get it set up here. Then turn the camera on. Okay, and to get this spring, the problem is it goes right in here. And there's a little catch. Oh, you know what? Let me just go ahead and remove these washers. I should have done this before I put those pins in. I'm going to run into trouble, I think, because you got to run a socket and an extension down there. So let me take that back apart because I'm going to have to run this up. Okay, you live and learn having to take this back apart here. So I didn't realize I'd get into trouble here. So let me slip these pins out. A little bit hard to get out now. It's got a little bit of bind. Use one of my favorite tools, a door panel. It's probably my second most used tools working on cars. Use it for hoses, prying. Okay. Now, see, I can lift that up and out of there so I can get a straight shot. Still not quite a straight shot, but better. you slip this spring sort of under that catch. See if I can start that. I really need to get a 1/4-inch drive U-joint socket, because I got to come in there at an angle. Well, let me go do that, because that's going to work a lot better. Okay, what I've got here is just a cheap Amazon called Astro. I haven't used these much. When I was working in an independent shop, the boss had bought a set when these first came out, and they were pretty expensive. And where I worked the last 7 years at CarMax, we didn't have to buy our own tools. So they make it kind of just crazy. Never thought I'd run into this. It's all because of the way they put that other piece in there. You gotta get the spring out. Okay. I know I had a hard time removing this. Looks like the threads are already jammed up a little bit. Okay, let me just inspect it. Yeah, looks like it's, yeah, that's the only way to get this in there straight. So use this. Okay, that'll be plenty tight. Now what I can do is slip in these other pieces. Well, that'll work on a lot of tilt mechanisms on Fords. Not on a tractor like this. I'm sure I did years ago on an International Harvester, but that's been 40 years ago. Now I'm going to slip that spring underneath there. See, it kind of pushes that back up. And one more time here. Okay. Like we torque them to about a 1/4 turn before they break off. That's where you want to do it. That's what a shop teacher told me once. It's about the truth. Okay, here's another tricky part, is to get this, the lever assembly. Yeah, you can see that slot, and that would clear it. I want to make sure that wasn't just a hole, and I had to put this on first. Okay, now what I have to do is kind of get it started, and then keep pulling it. Well, once you get a couple threads going, it won't be so bad. Okay, there we go. Gonna pull it out, thread it on, pull it out, thread it on. Make sure this all works before I slip the steering wheel on for sure. Once I slip that steering wheel on, it may not come off very easy. Okay, now it's tight, so you loosen it, then you can do this. There. That's how you want it. So that's together. Side screws are tight. So now we're for the plastic shield. And it's got 2 Phillips head screws at the top here. Okay. There. Make sure that works okay. So I think I had run into trouble. If you look at my post on the Massey Ferguson Facebook group, I pulled out 2 pieces of metal. One looked like a little Allen wrench. And I think a kid may have stuck it into this area and it got caught underneath. And that's what I thought my problem was at first, before I knew that U-joint was bad. So now we just have these 2 little Phillips head screws. I had to use my most used tool, a little magnet. That's my first most used tool in my working as a mechanic all these years. Stick it in there like that and then finish tightening it. Okay. Now it's a matter of just putting on the steering wheel. And I'm going to have to decide exactly how I want to put it in there. I might drive it a little bit, although I don't know. If it's like a international, those steering wheels slowly rotate. There is no direct linkage between the steering wheel and the front wheels. It goes through a hydraulic motor and pump assembly. And I don't know if this one's like that or not. I think it's direct, so I'll try to get the spoke in the right direction here. One thing I did notice when I took this apart, especially once I got this shield here out of the way, see how it's all pretty dirty in here. This is the intake. That fan, a fan is mounted back here and it sucks air from this direction. I noticed I had a little mouse nest, and I don't think it came from this. Since I've redid this shed here, I think it was earlier, it was down in here, and so I cleaned that all out. But I kind of forgot about a deal here. I'm going to pop it up. These tractors have a little screen in front of the radiator. I'm going to pound this out, and I don't have air in here, but I got a little air in the air bubble. I'm going to get this dirt out of here, then slip it back down. While I got this all apart, I can kind of see through there a lot better. Of course, I could slip the steering wheel on, put the spoke. I don't know, how should that steering wheel go? Single spoke down here. Okay, looks to me like, yeah, the way it's spaced, this one, I don't have a repair manual on this thing. On cars, they were always a little dot there that you would line up. And then this has a washer. I have it over there in the wheelbarrow. And then the nut to hold it down. I'm going to keep this off for now and clean everything up. See if we can get in here. Should really blow from the back side. I'm getting most of it out though, about out of air. I just use this air bubble for my motor tire. If I can reach in there. Some more of that mouse nest out. Could really put gloves on when I do this. But I think the mouse has been out there for a long time. You can actually reach in there get to the bottom of the radiator. So maybe, yeah. Okay, just slip that in. Okay, that's all clean. I bought this used with about 100 hours on it. So all this could have come from when the previous owner. But I didn't have my shed rebuilt when I got this tractor either. I used this tractor to rebuild the shed, and so it could have come before I got it rebuilt and sealed up. Now we'll see if we can get this shield in. It's just held this little I don't know what you call it. Slip it in here. I had to fight it a little bit. Yeah, my wife was kind of proud because she suggested taking that off at first. Well, that gives you more access. Let you figure out how that shaft goes into that pump assembly. There. Okay. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to put just a really thin film of grease on all this. Slip that wheel on and call it good. I'm not going to tighten down that nut very tight in case it's got to come apart again. But that should give you an idea of what to do. Okay, just got to tighten the nut. Yes, the threads aren't perfect. I jimmied them a little bit, getting the steering wheel off. Tried to straighten them up with a thread chaser. I just had a file, but I didn't have a metric one. Okay, that's as good as I'm going to get it. Now, ooh, you know what? Is this going to be right? Which way does the Massey Ferguson emblem go? I'm not a Massey guy, so I don't even know. So it's got to go a certain way. Ooh, boy, I'm going to be in trouble here. You guys are going to make fun of me. Okay. I guess it really don't matter. Because no matter how this is going, maybe I got the steering wheel on there backwards. There. I think is it with the triangles facing down. Maybe I got the steering wheel in there upside down. I don't know. I'm going to live with it. I was looking all over this thing for a Massey Ferguson emblem to know whether I put that on there wrong. Well, let me show you what I did here. Tell me if I got that steering wheel upside down. Oops, I found it. I must have it right.